In 1996, the French President Jacques Chirac added his legacy to the cultural landscape of Paris by commissioning the building of a magnificent museum to house and display Indigenous art from Africa, the Americas, Asia and Oceania, the Musée du Quai Branly. This new museum, right in the heart of Paris, has taken its place amidst the great museums of the world. It has been a long tradition for French presidents to contribute to the artistic infrastructure of Paris. Jacques Chirac, having had a keen interest in Indigenous art and culture from an early age, recognises the importance of building such a museum now. The Musée du Quai Branly is a symbolic statement, speaking out against the standardisation of different cultures throughout the world as they are steamrolled together in the era of globalisation. In 2002, the French government approached the Australian government asking them to contribute a unique Australian Indigenous art project to the museum. At the request of the Australian government, the Australia Council for the Arts asked Aboriginal curators Hetty Perkins and Brenda Croft to curate the Australian Indigenous Art Commission. Perkins and Croft travelled to Paris and met with the museum's French architect Jean Nouvel. Through discussions with Nouvel, the concept evolved.
But I imagine that it could be a fantastic experience. I think it's one of the most fantastic relationship between the, art and architecture.
The project team decided the Australian contribution to the gallery was to be unique, with the art becoming a permanent part of one of the museum buildings. Australian architects Peter Lonergan and Julie Cracknell were brought onto the project to collaborate with the artists and curators and take on the monumental challenge of how to interpret and recreate each artist's work and incorporate it into the designated spaces within the museum.
We've got a bit of a reputation for protecting the artist's interests and carefully installing and supervising the installation of their work. For that, you know, we're incredibly privileged. The idea developed, rather than a series of works being attached to the building, that in fact those works becoming part of the building fabric. The building being such a significant cultural institution and probably one of the largest public works that will be undertaken in Paris and in fact in Europe for a very long time. We wanted the work to last as long as the building was going to last.
Musée du Quai Branly was a colossal undertaking. This Australian Indigenous Art Commission took 3 years from inception to finish. Artworks were chosen after extensive consultation and planning with the artists and the French government. Some of the works were built and assembled in Sydney, then transported to Paris. The result is an incredible collaboration of artists, curators, tradesmen, artisans, architects and designers. It took over 3 years to realise the artist's vision and to fulfil Australia's greatest art commission. The project team visited Watson in his community to talk with him about his work and how it could be made and installed in Paris. Once Watson was satisfied with what was proposed, it was back to Sydney where a group of artisans went about the task of rendering the work on a very large scale and then transporting it to Paris. Watson's work is suspended 4 stories above street level and offers an incredible perspective of his country. His work literally turns the conventional tradition of landscape painting on its head. Art is the instrument by which Watson's unique vision can be shared with the world as his work erupts overhead in Paris like a display of celebratory fireworks.
I think that when people look at the commission, someone that doesn't know anything about the artists or anything about Australia and walk past it, I think they'll be struck immediately by the beauty of the individual works within it. I mean, it is a single curatorial entity, but it is the sum of its parts.
I could never imagine what could be the result, but I think the result is, for me, is a above what I could imagine.
You know, you realise it's historical after the fact. You're not aware of that at the time, and just the chance to be a part of that was something that will stay with me and really affected me.
As a single curatorial entity, the Australian Indigenous Art Commission at the Musee du Quai Branly aspires to a world of art without prejudice. In one master stroke, the Musee du Quai Branly has drawn back the musty covers of antiquated museum practice to reveal the power of an exceptional contemporary art movement.